But you then argue that the election of Donald Trump played a crucial role in accelerating the developments that you've just described. So can you talk a little bit about why you think that that was so important?
Well, I would actually say the opposite. I would say the developments I describe, I think, led in a big way to Donald Trump's election.
Okay. So yes, you're right. You also make that argument. But then you say that Trump, gave the media certain other incentives, opportunities to push these stories forward. So talk about both. I mean, because I think they are both important to the story you're trying to tell.
Do you know how many times Trump's name appeared in the New York Times in 2017? It's 97,000 times. That's once every 250 words. It's twice every single article. Unless you think that, okay, it's a president, you got to talk about a president, right? So guess how many times President Obama's name appeared in the New York Times in his second year in office? It was 37,000 times. It's a difference of 60,000 times, 60,000 articles, okay? That was not driven by a journalistic motive. That was driven by a profit motive. And the reason for that is that used to be journalism, we judged whether journalism was good or bad. We evaluated it based on how many people, how big the reach was. That shifted with the internet. Online, the way you judge success in journalism is through engagement. How many impressions an article creates, how many comments on Facebook, how many shares on Twitter. And we know, obviously, everyone here knows that the most engaged readers are the most extreme, and that emotion drives engagement. So in 2018, the New York Times created a new way of tracking the emotions of their readers. It's called Project Feels. They had their data science team started asking young, affluent readers, millennials who make over $100,000, $130,000 a year, to rate how certain articles made them feel and how much they made them feel. And what they found was, not surprisingly, the more emotional, the more the reader was feeling, the longer they stayed on the page, and the more likely they were to click on an ad. So that was step one. Step two, they created a machine learning algorithm that could predict how an article was going to make a reader feel, and they now sell that to advertisers. So when Armani comes to the New York Times and says, I would like to buy an ad, the New York Times can say, no problem. How would you like the reader to be feeling when they encounter your ad, and how much? Right? It's like Facebook. They essentially hacked and monetized our emotions. That's why President Trump's name appeared 97,000 times in the New York Times in 2017, right? Because he makes affluent white liberals, who are the target audience of the New York Times, feel things very, very deeply, which makes them buy things, which makes them very valuable to the New York Times, right? What happened with digital media was you used to have all of these liberal outlets which were each catering to a different audience, each catering to a different readership. And essentially what you have now is The Atlantic and Vox and the New York Times and the Washington Post and NPR are all going for the same 6, 7, 8 million highly affluent, highly educated progressives who live in coastal cities, who are going to spend in a way that will impress advertisers, who are going to pay for that subscription to the New York Times because it makes them feel like part of an elite club. All of these outlets are now catering to the same elite readership, and it is that has driven the way that they cover race more than anything else. It's about class. It's not about race. And that's why you see things like defund the police, defund the police, defund the police, instead of people going into working class neighborhoods and asking people, what do you need to not get beat up and insulted by the police? What would you like to see? How can we help you fulfill the dreams for your children? Because the moral panic around race that we're seeing in the liberal media is just the last stage of American journalists who are now part of the elite abandoning the working class of all races.
So, strong words, and I'm going to ask you some